Welcome to BDA News, the student-provided news program. I'm Andy Hong. We have a number of important news headlines for you this week. It seems like MH370 is now back on the headlines. Esther?
The search of the missing Malaysia Airlines is seemingly coming to an end as the Prime Minister of Malaysia announced that they will release a preliminary report on the plane's disappearance. It is said that the report will be available to the public next week. There are still rising tensions as family members are becoming angered by the slow responses of the government. An underwater drone is still searching for the missing plane, and the Bluefin 21, the underwater probe, plunged into the Indian Sea for its 13th mission, but there are doubts that anything will be found. This device searched about 95% of the designated area search with no results. Now, as weeks of the missing plane has continued, you're probably wondering, why is the government secretive about the search? Malaysia has not been known as a model of transparency. The same political party has ruled the country for the past 50 years, so the social media is not really open and controlled by the government. This disappearance has indeed been controversial, and we hope that we can get results soon.
In Ukraine, a government clash with the local pro-Russian militia in the city of Slavyansk on Thursday demolished numerous insurgent checkpoints and strongholds, albeit without much headway in wresting control away from the separatists. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, denounced this move as a serious crime and began new military exercises. In response to the military drills, the Ukrainian government gave Putin 48 hours to explain the troop movements near the Russo-Ukrainian border. It did not, however, state the consequences should Russia not comply. Insurgent movements have sprung across eastern Ukraine ever since Russia annexed Crimea in March. The movement seems to have considerable local support, especially in the cities of Slavyansk and Donetsk. Ultimately, these uprisings have seriously undermined the authority of the government back in Kiev.
Yes, and as a week passed by since the South Korea ferry incident, the death toll keeps climbing. At least 183 passengers have confirmed dead, and there are still 121 missing. Many of those who died or are presumed dead were students and teachers from Tan High School. However, parents and relatives of the missing students were angered by the slow pace of search efforts. They surrounded the senior officials and Coast Guard chief and demanded for explanations. Nearly 200 relatives set off on Sunday on what they said was a protest march from Chindo to the presidential Blue House in Seoul. However, several hundreds of policemen blocked their way, forcing them to turn back. Again, we hope that there is some proper reason for this accident, and for now, we reach out to parents, relatives, and friends who are suffering through so much.
And nearly 20 years after the Oslo Accords made it seem as if Israel and Palestine would finally get along, Israel's security cabinet rejected peace negotiations with Palestine on Thursday on grounds that Palestine's government is run by an extremist wing called Hamas, which is now negotiating a merger with a rival extremist Palestinian party, Fatah. Peace talks between the two nations have been deteriorating steadily, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blames it entirely on Palestine. According to him, it is the direct continuation of Palestine's refusal to advance the negotiations. Hamas has fired more than 10,000 missiles and rockets at Israeli territory and has not halted terrorist actions against Israel even for a minute, as if Israel didn't do anything to Palestine.
Yeah. Recently, Obama has been visiting 4 countries in Asia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and Philippines, to re-establish military relations. He first visited Japan and has just arrived in South Korea. In Japan, he repeated Tokyo of U.S. support in his bilateral territorial After a trip to Japan, President Obama arrived in South Korea. However, tensions arise as North Korea threatening South Korea as they are preparing a nuclear test. While stressing that Washington stood shoulder to shoulder with Seoul, he said that Pyongyang would gain nothing by making threats. Both the United States and South Korea have repeatedly asked China to exert influence and pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear program. In the midst of the tragic event of the ferry and the tensions, South Korea is going to face some tough times.
Back in the United States, Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy has become something of a celebrity after successfully fending off the federal government from seizing his lands for having his cattle graze on federal lands without paying for 20 years. However, that fame was short-lived after he explicitly stated in a released internet video that African Americans would have been better off as slaves. Politicians who had praised him just days before now proceeded to denounce his blatant racism. Bundy, however, seems to show no signs of remorse. In a CNN interview, Bundy said, "I don't think I'm wrong, I think I'm right." I just have to say that, frankly, I'm disgusted by this. Absolutely disgusted.
In Ecuador, President Rafael Correa publicly complained that Washington had too many military officers and said that they have been infiltrated in all sectors. He demanded that the U.S. Embassy military group, about 20 Defense Department employees, to leave the country by the end of this month. However, this came as no surprise to the United States government. After taking office in 2007, the president ended an agreement with Washington that allowed U.S. drug interdiction flights to be based at the Ecuadorian airfield in Manta. Korea accused Washington, a close ally of neighboring Colombia, of meddling in Ecuador's military and police, and was incensed after Colombia launched a cross-border raid into its territory in 2008 to kill a rebel commander. Wow, tensions seem to arise with many countries. And Andy, please introduce us to the science news.
And stem cells, as you may know, can turn into any type of cell in any tissue and are therefore considered crucial to human development. These cells are typically only found in younger people because their tissue aren't fully developed yet, so they have more stem cells that are yet to be used. However, a recent report released from a research project conducted by CHA or CHA Health Systems Research Institute for Stem Cell Research in Los Angeles and CHA University in Seoul, South Korea, shows that cloning technologies can produce stem cells from adult skin as well. The technique known as somatic cell nuclear transfer, which involves fusing mature cells to egg cells to produce stem cells, is one of many controversial studies conducted with stem cells for future therapeutical uses such as constructing organs.
And yes, this day in history, 1953, Francis Crick and James Watson article described the double helix of DNA, which was published in the Nature magazine. It seemed like these two scientists discovered the DNA all by themselves, but actually, the DNA was first identified in the late 1860s by a Swiss chemist. Other scientists contributed to this area of study. Without the strong basis of knowledge, they would have never been able to reach their groundbreaking conclusion that the DNA molecule exists in the form of a three-dimensional double helix. They were both awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1962. Thanks to all of the scientists who contributed, we high schoolers have to take biology honors and dig deep into the world of DNAs.
And yes, don't forget Rosalind Franklin. And that'll be the last broadcast of BDA News. We'll be back next week with new name, new logo, and hopefully some new, better catchphrases. So for the last time, this is BDA World News over and out.